creative friends. This is Rebecca. I'm an independent consultant with Close to My Heart. My website is showmescrapping.com. So this is the card that we're going to be making today. This uses the July stamp of the month. This stamp set is only available in July, so we just have a few days left. And it is a D size stamp set. You can see that the stamps completely fill this whole carrier sheet. And, it's just got some great things in here. It's got this cute little girl holding the big bouquet of flowers. Wouldn't that be so much fun to color? And then we've got all these extra little flowers and hearts and butterflies. I love this little bitty butterfly. I had to put him on my card, and then dragonfly. And then there's great sentiments to go along with that. For my beautiful friend, sure do miss you, just for you. Thank you. Thankful for every day. Sending my love. You bring so much happiness to my life. And you can see the scale of this is big enough that this would be great for scrapbooking. I'm going to show it on a card, but you can see the scale is really nice for those scrapbook pages as well. So this stamp set, again, is only available in July 2020. And it is a full-size D stamp set, which means the regular price is $18.95. But you can add it to your cart for just $5 if your cart already has $50 of product in it. So in the last few months, I've been creating a card each month, and I send a little kit out to everyone who orders the stamp of the month for them to finish the card. And I try to incorporate some extra things. So this month, I incorporated this great grid. And you can see I cut this out of glacier paper. It has this neat stitching. And then this grid just makes it really fun to add all those little pieces of paper. And those are cut with the multi-square window, I believe that's the full name, die cut. And you can see that stitching is right here on the die cut. So you just run that through with your piece of paper, and you're going to get that great grid to put. And it's the perfect size to fit right on a card. So I just have that nice little 1/8 of an inch white border all the way around. So you can see the uses for this really are great because it's the perfect size and it has that neat detail of the stitching. And as a bonus, you get all these extra little squares of paper that you can use for something else. So I'm making a stack of those, and we'll see what I come up with for that. So in your kit, if you order the stamp of the month, you'll get this in the mail, just in an envelope from me. It'll come separate from your order, but you will get that grid. You'll also get the card base, which is right down here. You'll get all these little pieces of paper that go in the grid. So those are designs that are from the current mix-in paper, and they are double-sided. So, you could play around and decide if you wanted to use the side that I used, or you could flip them over and, maybe use all of the different designs. Half of half, or the ones you like. You can come up with your own color combination. You'll also get a couple pieces of paper to make the little banners on the side. I have the Bluebird blue, which is that nice bright. I just thought the contrast there with that bright blue and coloring the butterflies, that bright blue on top of all this pastel was really nice. So you'll get that, and then you'll also get this one, which you'll do your stamping on, and I'm going to demo that today. And you also get a little piece of shimmer trim, which shimmer trim makes everything better. So I added it right here, and a few of the little bitty sparkles. And sparkles are my favorite accessory to use. I always keep them on hand because you can add them to anything. And we have them in two sizes. We have the regular size sparkles, and these are the bitty sparkles. And you can see that it just adds that neat little bit of shimmer to the centers of the butterflies. So you get those as well. And then you'll also get a little bit of extra paper to do your stamping for your butterflies. They are fussy cut. And of course you get your card base. Okay, so I'm just going to put one of these together. So this will serve as a demo. When you get your kit in the mail, you can rewatch this and put together your card. So on my table here, I have what's called a Versamat. It's going to help us do really nice stamping. It is optional, but I do strongly suggest that you put foam under your work surface when you are stamping, because it does help you stamp. It just makes sure that all the parts of the stamp that are supposed to touch the paper, and that's what transfers the ink. But conveniently, every one of our stamp sets always has a piece of foam in it. So in lieu of having a tool like this, the Versamat, you can always just use the the foam that comes in your stamp set. So when I open up my stamp set, there's this plastic carrier sheet, and on it are all of the stamps. And these are just peel off, and they are cling. It's actually the material of the stamp itself that makes them cling. And we're just going to put the stamps on blocks. I think I need to get one more block out. I thought I had all of them out. This stamp right here is an interesting one. Let me grab another block. This stamp, it looks kind of like a little swish of paint. Let me show you it on the carrier sheet. And I always think it's funny, these solid pieces always on the carrier sheet look so dark. And for someone like me that's very literal, it's hard for me to think outside the box and picture that anything but a dark paint splotch. But when you use a light ink, that's like a background. So you can use that to highlight any of the words. Like here on Sending My Love, you could use it to highlight the My Love by putting a soft color behind that. On our card, I'm putting it behind the Beautiful. But again, you could do it on the Happiness or My Life. It just kind of makes whatever you put it behind pop out. So here it is on the card that I made. I stamped it in peach, which is going to coordinate with this background, you know, this texture paper. But that just makes that word beautiful just highlighted, which I think is a neat touch. Plus it brings more of that peach in to kind of tie it all together. So that's a neat stamp. And then the final one that I need to peel off, I got the butterfly. Oh, then there's also the little butterfly. Let's see, he's right here. So I put him on a block, and then of course our sentiment, which is the one I forgot to get a block out for. And block size does matter. You always want to make sure that your stamp does not overlap the edge of a block. You can go bigger, and when somebody's first starting out, you know, they might not have a lot of blocks, and you can always go bigger, but you have to just be really careful when you stamp with a bigger block, because if you touch down the edges, so when you're inking it up, a lot of times ink gets on the edges of your block, and if this was on a really big block, it'd be so easy to just accidentally touch it down. Which if you're stamping like we are for the butterfly, we're going to stamp this on scrap paper and cut it out. Not a big deal. But if you are stamping, you know, if we were stamping that on the front of our card, or like when we're stamping the sentiment here, we definitely don't want the edges of that block to touch down. So I'm going to use the Intense Black. I really like that for, I'm going to be coloring with the alcohol markers. So it's going to be more likely to set and not, you know, not move when I start coloring it in. It also is just a nice, rich, dark black. You can just stamp it a few times on scrap, and some stamps are going to just be more readily ready to use than others. This one, where it doesn't have a lot of big solid pieces, was a pretty easy one to season. I just stamped it a few times on the scrap. I also rub it around on the ink pad just to kind of make sure things get off, and then tap it around, and then just when you're stamping, once you have it inked up, and you can actually look through and see the ink, especially with a dark color like this. Once you've got it evenly colored with ink, you're just going to press straight down and right back up. So there's my two butterflies. Aren't those pretty? And I love that dark, rich black color. Oh, we've got one more thing to stamp before I put that away. I'm going to stamp the For My Beautiful Friend, and then of course we're going to have to dovetail this piece. So again, I'm just making sure it's inked up really good. I've already used these, so I'm not too worried about seasoning, but I always make sure I tap around a lot. I'm going to move this just a little bit more to the right side, since I'm going to notch out the left side. So that's all we need with the black. We are going to, like I said before, we're going to stamp over the Beautiful. And I thought about doing second generation, but I really thought even just first generation, because that peach is so light, I thought that looked good. I played around on scrap paper. I always do that, kind of get an idea of what I want to do. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of go over the Beautiful. Just kind of looks like you took a paintbrush and highlighted that word. There we go. This card comes together pretty quickly. When you get your kit, everything is going to be already cut out, other than these little notches and fussy cutting the butterfly. So when I cut notches, I try to go about halfway from one corner like that, and then I take that little piece and just fold it over to meet the other corner. So fold it over like that. And then that gives me a line to follow to cut the other side. And that tends to help me get it nice and even so that the little point is right in the middle. I know there's other tricks other people use. So if you're watching this and you have another trick, put that in the comments to share with us. Oh, one thing I learned when I did this before, it's better to color before you cut out, especially that little bitty butterfly. When you're coloring it, if it's already cut out, it gets really hard to hold on to. So I am using, this was one of the Tri-Blend markers, and it's called True Blue. So Tri-Blend. And I love these because each time you buy one, you get 3 different colors that all go together. They're just different shades of the same color. So you can see the little arrow down here says light. So that means this end is the lightest of the 3. And then there's a medium right here. You can pull it apart in color. And then there's the dark. So I used all of those. I started with the light. And there's different schools of thought. So if you use alcohol markers, in the comments, tell me, do you start with the dark or do you start with the light? Okay, so that is all of the stamping. We are ready to put this card together. When I am gluing, especially something like this grid, you can see how I'm going to have to follow all these little lines. It's really easy to get glue on my paper, on my table, on my Versamat. This is an all-purpose mat. It's a silicone mat that just wipes off really easily. And I'm going to use the Tombow. It's the blue one, the liquid glue. So I added the glue on the blue. If you add the glue to the little squares, I think it's just going to get really messy. And I'm going to try to follow this. Now remember it's upside down, so I'm going to kind of do the opposite. So this is that square right there. So on the back side, since I'm going to be flipping it over, I'm putting it here. Does that make sense? So when I flip it over, and I played around until I found a pattern that I liked. It probably doesn't matter too much. So here is that one. So I'm going to put it over here. And these can overlap on the back side. You don't have to be real picky. Okay, looks good. And they're not in there real secure because I didn't make sure that I got the glue everywhere. But that's okay because now we're going to put it directly onto the card front. And what I ended up doing when I did mine, I thought about running the glue across here, but I thought it might catch on some of those loose papers. So I just did the tape on the glue front, or the card front, and I just stayed away from the edge because I knew there'd be that little bitty white edge. So I went close, but not quite to the edge. And then I put a little extra in the center. I don't usually do this if that was a solid piece, but since it has all these little squares, I want to make sure it sticks down everywhere. We don't have one sliding around back there if I didn't get it with the glue. Okay, there's our card front. Don't you love that? And I think if you do add this thin cut to your order, you're going to love it. I've seen so many fun projects made with it. You can put it on scrapbook pages. You can put it on layouts or cards. I need to cut my notch. Whoops. I need to cut my notch in my blue piece. So again, I'm going to go halfway, fold, and cut. And we're ready to start assembling. Okay, I'm going to use the tape runner for my little banners. And I'm just eyeballing it. And then shimmer trim, if you haven't used this before, it's gorgeous. You can see all that sparkle. It comes on a roll. And we have a bunch of different colors of it. Black, silver, gold. We've had other colors in the past. And you get 5 whole yards. So this goes a long way. And this already is started. Sometimes getting it started is kind of tricky. So I have some tricks for that. One of them is to just put a little bit of your permanent adhesive on a piece of scrap paper and then stick that backing that you're trying to peel off onto that adhesive, and then it will stick to the paper and you can pull the tape off. That sometimes works. I think there's other tricks out there too. Okay, that actually didn't do too bad. I wasn't sure. Okay. And then I popped this up because when I laid it on there, I could tell it wasn't going to lay real flat because down here at the bottom, we've got the shimmer trim as well as the cardstock. Got a little extra height there. So I thought putting it on a little bit of foam tape, and this is our thin foam tape. We do have it in a regular thickness as well. And I didn't really want to add a whole lot of dimension, but just enough to just kind of even that out. And that's probably enough. And you'll notice, you may have noticed, you may have, may not, I switched scissors. The original ones I was using are our regular, I think they're all gray now if you order them, but this is our regular microchip scissors. I love, love, love. They cut so nicely. Fussy cutting out the butterflies was so easy. The second set, you can see they're black up here, and that's because they have a Teflon coating, and so things like the 3D foam tape and the shimmer trim that has adhesive in it, it's not going to stick. So these are the non-stick ones. These are the regular. I do think the regular are a little bit easier to do my regular cutting with, but I grab these whenever I'm doing adhesive. So I keep both of those on my table. Okay, I'm going to pop up the little butterflies as well. So I've got more of the foam tape, and I'm going to, whenever you buy a pack of this, you always get 2 rolls. You get the thick, the wider, and the narrow. I'm going to use the narrow for the butterflies since they're a little smaller. I need some little pieces, but you do get a roll of each. We also have our foam tape in dots. So if you're someone who loves to grab just the dots and not have to grab your scissors, I'm so used to grabbing my scissors every time I use the foam. And it does tear. Some people tear it. I just haven't gotten into the rhythm of that. So I am so used to just grabbing my scissors every time I need to cut a little foam tape off. That's just my habit, so I haven't switched to the dots or started tearing it. Scissors work great for me. I am just Butterfingers all of a sudden. Okay, so let's see. I'll put him there. And then the cute little butterfly, which I couldn't leave off. I thought about doing 2 of the bigger butterflies, but then I saw this little guy and I thought he's just too cute to resist. So I had to put him on. And then our final touch is adding a little sparkle. So I kind of like how they say to work in triangles, and by putting the sparkles on the 2 butterflies and then having the shimmer trim, it kind of has that silver in a triangle, which is kind of what they say, people who are design people. And it does, I don't know, it seems to work. And I'm just sliding these off. They are self-adhesive on the plastic sheet. So I'm kind of holding them the edge where I want it, and then make sure I get it where I want it before I press it down. Just kind of sliding them off, up, and put it there. Okay, so we got that little sparkle over here with the butterflies, shimmer trim, and we have our finished card. So once again, this is using the July stamp of the month, which is only available this month. And you can just add that to your order for $5 if you've already picked out $50 worth of product. You can also just add it and pay full price. And then I will send you a kit which will have all the things in it that I showed you at the beginning of the video. That will come in the mail directly to you so that you can then stamp and assemble your card. So thank you guys for watching,